Okay, well, I mean, there are some easy rules to follow. Like any story, it's a beginning and a middle and an end. You have to tell the story logically, in a clear way, so you don't want to overcomplicate the sentences, you don't want to overcomplicate the structure, you don't want to have people flipping back and forward trying to find out where you've said various things, so you have to have it in a logical, structured manner. That does not mean it has to be written in a linear manner. You're not writing a novel. You don't start at page 1 and write through to the conclusion at the end. You can write it in different places, a bit here and a bit there, and look back and revise, add in things, move sections around. But by and large, you're going to have an introduction, you're going to have the methodology, how you approach this, what methods you're going to use. You're then going to have a results section, and then you're going to have a section with conclusions, discussions. After that, you're going to have references. They'll be in a standard format for your particular discipline. And you may want to have things like appendices for things that are not so burning in the main text, but do shed light upon what you're talking about. They don't want to just put them in a drawer and leave them, consign them to the bin of history. So there's a logical structure to that as it goes through. The purpose of a research dissertation is to demonstrate that you understand how to structure systematic, robust research. To get the answer is the icing on the cake. What you're doing is demonstrating to the reader that you know how to actually organise a piece of research in an area that you know nothing about or little about, and build it up by looking at what other people have done in the past, other literature, other experiments or other pieces of information that you can find. Identify what are the key issues, the common issues, the issues that are less well known, and you want to then look further. And then identifying that, move on to how you're going to gather new data, how you're going to present your results, what tools you're going to use for analysis, and so on and so forth. It's a step-by-step process. But there are only two things in a dissertation that most dissertation readers expect. One is it has to be your work, and secondly, it has to be a new contribution to the subject, an original contribution. It might be a study that's been done elsewhere and you're repeating it in a different geographical area and then comparing the two and seeing how they pan out. But it has to be something new, not something that's been done before and done to death. But apart from that, anything else, the originality, the style you use the presentation, there's a fairly standard formula for the production of dissertation. And it's not a question of actually having to reinvent the wheel. You can just slot into these bits and put your own information in those chapter headings. Numbered it through. It's a good idea to have your sections numbered, 1, 1.1 for paragraph 1, and so on and so forth, all the way through. Then you can cross-refer throughout the text. You want to start writing very early on. I think you don't have to have the finished article. In fact, it would be very suspicious if you did produce the perfect article the first time you do it, the perfect chapter. What you want to do is get in practice. It's like anything else. If you're running, your muscles get used to running and they develop, and then it gets easier and it gets easier. Same with writing. So you want to write at an early stage, even if you don't want to use that in your final dissertation. So keep a research notebook, keep a blog that you share with your supervisor. A really good tip is to start with the contents pages right at the start of the project and say you have a beginning, a middle, a results, an end, and so on and so forth, and then you have subsections within that. That will change undoubtedly during the course of your project, but that gives you some scaffold to work through as it goes through. Write questions to yourself. Open a file on the computer and write a question. Simple questions, the hard questions. Some will be left at the end unanswered, but at least it gets you in the habit of expressing your thoughts in writing. You can then write small snippets, for example, on key papers that you read. A critical review of the paper, just in one paragraph. And perhaps you can actually string these paragraphs together as part of a literature review. So getting into the habit of writing and getting your words coming out there is an invaluable skill, which you can then say, you know what, I don't need this section, I can rip it out. It's better to write too much and cut it back than to try and cut corners and make assumptions, and by doing so, not actually write enough to convince the reader that you've thought of all the angles, but these ones are not relevant, therefore they won't be discussed. It's better to actually write as much as possible to describe the overall picture, to show that you're aware of the whole systematic research process.